Hello, my lovely grade 7 class. Now, welcome to the last part of our class today. And as we continue exploring our English language and looking at the parts of speech, we are now going to focus on something very important, and something we're going to talk about is the types of noun and their use. So, we're going to be looking at the types of nouns and their use. So, for example, in the way we've looked at the different types of nouns, let me just show you so that we can't forget and lose track. We've talked about common nouns and what they are. We've talked about the proper nouns and what they are. We've talked about the concrete nouns and what they are too. We've looked at the abstract nouns and what they present. We've looked at the countable nouns and what they are. We looked at the uncountable nouns too. We talked about the collective nouns and what they are. We later came to look at the compound nouns and what they really are. We then looked at the gerund nouns and what they are and talked about it in depth, where I believe you understood. We then looked at the verbal noun or the infinitive noun and looked at what it entails and understood it. So right now we're going to focus on the type of noun. So we're going to look at each type of noun we looked at and its use. So when you talk about a specific noun, you talk about a type of noun, what is their use, or how do you use them? Okay, so first let's look at the common noun. So common nouns, we talked about them being general names for people and places. Okay, so these general nouns, they are just the ideas that are not specific to a particular entity. So for example, the dog barked loudly. So this refers to any dog in general. So you're not sure which dog someone is talking about or what dog someone is talking about here. The dog barked loudly. So you don't know what dog is being talked about. So do not forget that the use of common nouns is just general for naming people, places, names, things, or ideas that are not specific to any particular entity, or they do not refer to anybody or any object or any concept. Okay, so those are the common nouns. Do not forget about that. Then the proper nouns. Proper nouns are now specific names for individual people, places, or things. They are capitalized and are used to refer to unique entities. For example, I visited Paris last summer. So it refers to the specific city you went. You cannot just stand in class and tell people how your summer was and just tell them that I visited some country there, and they don't even know the country you visited. So the use of the proper noun is to give us the clarification of a specific place you visited or a specific thing you did. So you visited Paris last summer. Okay, so that's the use of the proper noun. Do not forget about that. Then when you talk about concrete nouns, with the concrete nouns, their use is they refer to tangible or physical entities that can be perceived through the five senses. Okay, so with the concrete nouns, they're just the physical entities that can be perceived through the physical senses. They are used to describe physical objects and experiences. So these are tangible things that we can touch. We can touch tables, we can touch chairs, we can see them even. So the table is made of wood. It refers to a physical, tangible object. So you can see this table, you can touch this table. It's made of wood. You have seen it, you have touched it. So those are what concrete nouns are. Okay, class? Do not forget about concrete nouns. Just remember you can touch them. The next one is the abstract nouns. Now when we talk about abstract nouns, these are just intangible ideas or intangible concepts. You cannot see them and you cannot touch them. They are used to express emotions, thoughts, or intangible aspects of life. So for example, she has a lot of knowledge. That means you're a bright child. Okay, and I believe my grade 7 class are bright children and they have a lot of knowledge too. So when we talk about this knowledge, this is just someone's thought. You might be knowledgeable to me, and to another person you're not knowledgeable. So this is a thought. Okay, it's someone's thought, and it might vary depending on who is talking. Okay, so with the abstract noun, it's just a thought and everyone has their own thought. So you cannot see knowledge, you cannot touch knowledge, you can neither see it or touch it, okay, or hear it. You can't even hear knowledge, but these are just intangible concepts or qualities or ideas. Do not forget about that, okay? So for example, I've given she has a lot of knowledge there. It refers to an intangible concept of having the knowledge. The next one is the countable noun. So their use is that countable nouns can be counted and quantified as an individual item or a unit. They are used with numbers and they have both singular and plural forms. There are 3 cats in the yard. So you can count this cat. It refers to a countable quantity of cats, okay? When talking about dogs, you can count dogs, you can count people, you can count countries, you can count chairs. So countable nouns, just from the word countable, these are nouns that can be quantified. And what do I mean by quantified? You can like attach a number to it. You can say 4 chairs, you can say 10 spoons, you can say 5 children. So you can add a number or attach a number to them. So those are the countable nouns, okay? Do not forget about that too. Then when we talk about uncountable nouns, their use is that they represent substances or uncountable concepts or qualities that cannot be counted as a discrete unit. So they are used in a more general or an abstract sense. When I talked about water, it shows like a mass. So uncountable nouns are just showing masses of things or a large amount of something which we can't count. So for example, we can't count your water, we can't count milk, water, sugar, salt. These are entities we can't count, but we talk about them in a more general and abstract sense. So for example, the water in the lake is clear. So this refers to the substance water, which is an uncountable noun. You can't go to a lake and start counting 1 water, 2 water, 3 water. No, we cannot count water, but we can like generalize it and just have the idea of it as one unit, okay? So don't forget about that. Then let's look at the collective nouns. With this, the use is that the collective nouns refer to a group or a collection of people, animals, or things. They're used when you want to treat a group as a single entity. For example, when you want to know the players of a certain team, or football players, basketball players, you will say a team of football players, okay? So you're making every team become like everyone in the team become like a single entity. So the team is practicing for the game. It refers to a group of players such in a single unit. It refers to a group of players in a single unit. So do not forget about that, okay? So let's continue and look at the next one here. We have the compound nouns. Again, these compound nouns are formed by combining 2 or more words to create a single noun with a specific meaning. Like I said, you can't just take any noun, combine them, and say they're compound nouns. For example, tree and chair, you say tree chair or chair tree. No, they must have meaning or make sense. For example, tooth and brush, toothbrush. Mother and in-law, mother-in-law. Foot and ball, football. Basket and ball, basketball. You take 2 entities that make sense and bring them together to form one concept or one word that has a meaning. I need a new toothbrush. It refers to a specific type of toothbrush. It refers to a specific brush, and that is a toothbrush, the one that you need, okay? Then we have the gerunds here, and the use of the gerunds is they show nouns that are formed from verbs by adding ing. So for example, his swimming is improving. What are you talking about? The swimming. So swimming here becomes our noun. So gerund nouns are just formed by combining 2 nouns or 2 words or even more so that you can get one word. So for example, mother, in, and law. We have mother-in-law. You're combining 3 words here. Foot and ball. We have football. 2 words are combined. Basket and ball. Basketball. Another 2 words that are being combined, okay? So the last one we looked at is the verbal nouns. And with the verbal nouns, the nouns that are formed from infinitive verbs that are used to express actions in a more abstract way. To run requires effort. So to run here is an action in a general sense. It gives a general view. To swim is more fun. to laugh is forbidden in this school, okay? I'm just joking, but you have to know that these verbal nouns, they're used in a more infinitive way to express something in an abstract way, okay? So now let's jump to our conclusion, where we want to discuss what we've learned today. So today we've covered a comprehensive overview of nouns, including their definition, their various types, their function, and their usage in English language. So nouns are fundamental elements of language that serve to name and identify people, places, things, and ideas. They play a very, very important role in constructing sentences and conveying meaning. So let's look at a summary of what we've learned before we close our class. So we've looked at definitions of noun, and I've told you what nouns are. So we talked about the definition of what nouns are, and I explained the definitions to you, where I talked about the just naming words, and that is simply what nouns are. We looked at the different types, the common nouns, the proper nouns, the concrete nouns, abstract nouns. We looked at the countable nouns and countable nouns, collective nouns. We looked at the compound nouns, gerund nouns, and the verbal nouns. We also looked at the functions of these nouns, whereby I talked about them being as a subject, direct object, indirect object, object of preposition, subject complement, appositive, direct addresses or direct address, and possession. So all these are things that I looked at. So as we end our lesson, I have an activity here, a simple activity again, just simple 10 questions, very, very simple questions that I want you to go through them and do them. And as you do these questions now, you will be able to even understand it better. I think from our class today, if you asked what a noun is or give examples of nouns or anything, you're at a place to mention them very fast, even identify them very, very fast, because I believe our lesson today has been intense and you understand what we are really talking about. So for activity, I want us to answer these 10 questions, 10 simple questions, and that is, let's look at them. So we have like, what is the primary function of a noun in a sentence? We know the functions. I've given you the functions. We've talked about the functions. Can you provide an example of a proper noun? Look at these simple sentences or simple questions. Very simple, and you can do them. So there are 10 of them, and these questions, for example, let's do question 2. Can you provide an example of a proper noun? So with this, I want you to write it down. So for example, if you give me the like a proper noun, for example, you're talking about Nigeria, okay? Expect you to write it down. And remember, sorry, let me write it down. Remember when you talked about it, we made sure to talk about these nouns that should be written with a capital letter. So you must have your N here with the capital letter, okay? If you're talking about maybe John, you must make sure that the name John starts with a capital letter. So you write it down. Maybe you write John down, okay? And make sure it's a capital letter like that. So don't forget about that. So this is the simple activity that I expect you to do. So there are 10 simple questions here. Look at them. Like, how do abstract nouns differ from concrete nouns? Again, we've looked at abstract nouns, we've looked at concrete nouns. What do you find the difference? Explain the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. Very, very simple questions that will help you have a better understanding of what nouns are. Give examples of collective nouns and explain their usage. We've done that. What is a gerund noun? And the gerund noun is a new concept I've introduced to you today, and I expect you to again understand them and even find more sentences and more examples that will help you understand them even better, okay? Provide an example of a countable noun and explain how it is formed. This one, I expect you to give me even like 5 examples. Give me as many examples as you can. So anything you do, try give me as many examples as you can, just to know your understanding. So there are 10 simple questions that I expect you to walk through them, examine them, and this will help you as we continue discussing this and as we continue learning. So thanks for joining my class today, and I feel so blessed and pleased to be your teacher. And I believe that our lesson today has been very, very productive, and most of us will go home understanding what nouns are without ever forgetting. So bye, and I expect to meet you for our next classes where we'll continue learning and discussing. Bye.